Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. It took a while again. Sadly, some unfortunate events happened while I was trying to fiddle with the hard drives when we built the PC. I dropped the graphics card and it died. Now, for those who already know, all motherboards have onboard graphics, but because of the CPU we have, we couldn't get any display since we are running an AMD Ryzen 7 1700X, and all X models from Ryzen do not have support for video output. Well, all that aside, I'm quite excited to start the project and build finally our NAS. And the first thing we have to do is obviously go and grab our ISO. I already did that, so I will show you where to get it. You can get it from the official website. You would like to go to the community, click on download. You're gonna have your ISO downloaded, and from there on you have to slap it into your Ventoy. If you don't know how to do that, please check one of my other videos. I'm gonna drop a link somewhere, also for the website and for the previous video where I show how to do the Ventoy. But enough said, enough yapping, as they say. Let's start with our project. So the USB is already in. Let's have a look at the BIOS a little bit. We can see the details of the memory, frequency, and what have you. I did manage to install the fourth hard drive. So now we have in total 4 hard drives, 3.5 inches, 2 terabytes each. And what we will have to do right now is to obviously enter into our boot menu and do the installation. So for some motherboards, you're gonna have different options. For my motherboard, it's F12. You can check with your user's manual of your motherboard to see what's your boot menu. So we're gonna hit F12. That should bring us to this boot. We have our intense partition 2 UEFI. We're gonna hit that. And here we are into Ventoy. We already grabbed the latest version, that it's a stable version of TrueNAS Scale. And we will continue into boot normal mode and take it from there. Can hit enter. A couple of two things happen. One, I had to update the BIOS, and the second, I had to burn TrueNAS with Rufus on a USB because apparently Ventoy is not compatible with the TrueNAS Scale, the EFI boot sequence. So right now we are running the installation with the USB, and we will pick up from where we left by continuing with the installation. So once you boot from the USB, you will be prompted with this window, and we will choose option 1. And here you need to be very careful where you want your system files to be installed. Now we already know that we have Hitachi, Toshiba, and 2 other hard drives. I forgot, Seagate I think they were, of 2 terabytes. And what we want to use the NVMe as our system file. So we're going to choose the NVMe. You need to press space to select the drive that you want. Hit OK. We get the warnings, yes. We click yes. We're gonna leave the defaults, administrator user, TrueNAS admin. Gonna hit OK. I'm gonna have to actually put a password, so I'm gonna do that right now. And with tab, you can switch from the Password field to OK, press OK. Allow EFI boot, yes. And we will wait for the installation to be completed. And here we are. This will be the administrator interface on the system itself. There are a bunch of options that you could use. Configure the network interface, network settings. Now we're not going to do that from here. So what we need to do is to actually access the web portal through the interface, which is https 192.168.2.38. So let's do that. You will be prompted with this warning that your connection is not private, even though we do have HTTPS. The SSL certificate doesn't work, but we don't care because this is locally. Later on, we will fix that with the TrueNAS SSL, so we will not see this error here. So we'll click Advance, Proceed. The default username for TrueNAS Scale used to be simply admin, but with the release of 24.10, or also known as Electric Eel, the username actually changed to TrueNAS_admin. So it's like this. And obviously the password is the one that we created during the installation. Once we plug everything in, we should be able to see our dashboard. This is how it looks like. We will have a bunch of information about CPU, memory, RAM memory, storage. Obviously, we don't have a pool. We will create a pool. But before we're going to do that, there are a couple of other steps we need to take. Even though I know for a fact that I grabbed the latest installation ISO, just for the sake of sanity, I'm going to check for updates. And we are up to date. That's great. Next thing we want to do is go to network, where we will find a bunch of informations about our network. And of course, if you remember the IP, it's always good practice to set this a static IP. You can do that through your router, or you can do that through your TrueNAS interface. And the way to do it will be, and the way to do that is to uncheck DHCP, and then you will have an option where to add your static IP /24, and we will click save. The default gateway should be 192.168, in my case .2.1. Hit register. Before applying the settings, you'll want to test the changes. So we might get kicked out for a second, but if the changes are correct, we should be able to save them. Let's hit save, refresh, and we should be Gucci. Now, if you want to check if it's static IP, you can see that it's no longer getting the IP through DHCP, and it's mainly going to be accessible through this IP. So this is done. Let's check available apps. Now in the future, we're going to have a bunch of apps that we want to deploy. We can run Docker container. We can use other, even Kubernetes if you're familiar. But what we are interested in is how to access our storage from outside our local network. So let's click on refresh. We have an issue which will be solvable very easy. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be because of the local time. So I'm gonna change my local time to Europe, Athens. The time is correct. I'm not sure if I will need to restart the system itself, but I guess we're gonna find out. So after the restart, we don't have any errors on the right hand side. So if we click on discover apps, we're gonna have a couple of them here, but we do have 116 available apps that we can choose from. You can even have a Vault Warden installed, but we're gonna get to that later on. The next step is, before anything else, is to do the data sets. So you're gonna create a pool. Let's give it a name. I'm gonna name mine tank. You can encrypt it if you want. It's good practice to have it encrypted, but we're gonna leave it for now, since our purpose is to have it only locally at this stage. So for the purpose of our NAS, we're gonna go, there are a bunch of methods, layouts that you can get. Stripe, Mirror, or RAID Z. I prefer RAID Z1 because this is TrueNAS own ZFS data volume, and this will ensure that if you lose one drive, you can still keep your data. Since we have 4 drives, we can actually go with that. And this is the size. Can go to the next. One VDEV is required, so let's see. All right, so we're gonna go with this configuration for VDEV1. Now, since we have our tank, we can actually start creating our first data set. So I will create a data set and we will name this home. We will leave it generic for now, but we're gonna change. Well, actually, we can start with the users now. We'll go to the credentials, users. We have the root and the admin user, but we need to add a normal user. So just for the sake of this example, don't follow my example, but you can put something more secure. Proper name. You can even add an email and have it log in through the email if you're doing it for a small business. And here we don't want a home directory, so we will plug in non-existent. Did I mess up? Yep. And now we have our first user. And now we can go back to our tank and add a data set. So we said home, and we want home to be SMB. Yes. And right now we can give the permission to that user that we created. So we will click edit, built-in user, built-in administrators, no. So we will remove everything. We will leave root as the owner and the group owner. We're going to choose user. Let's see if we can find test, and we will give test full control. Obviously we can apply the permission recursively, which means that whatever is created on home, he will be able to see all the files, and within those files we can apply permissions for child's dataset, which is exactly what I just said. So I'm gonna save this configuration. We have our SMB. We can check the shares. It's on. It already created a cron job, as we say, which means that every time the system will reboot, this service will start with the system giving us access to the file storage. And to test that, we will have to find our NAS on the network. Here we are. And if we double click, should let us, but I think we need to do the other route, which is you hold window key and R. You're gonna get prompted with this, and we will do 192.168.2.38, and now we will be prompted to log in with the user, because first time, because I'm pretty sure we need to disable NetBIOS, but right now we can log in with the user that we created via that method. Probably some other people will disagree with this method, but here we are in home. We don't have any files. If I want to check if I can get into it, right? So now I think it needed a little bit time to create the pools and everything. I don't know what's wrong, but right now we need to relog in. And I can have remember my credentials. And right now we have access to our folder. So the interesting part is that if, let's say, within this folder you start creating a different folder, let's say files, and you want to have another folder with music, and those files are created under home. If we go to our datasets under home, you will not see those files. In order to have files designated, which will help you later on if you build a structured NAS, maybe for your small business, what you can do is under home, you can add another dataset. And let's say, for the sake of the example, sales, you can have it also SMB. We'll create a cron job for this file as well. And it will tell you to go to the ACL manager to set the permissions. So right now I have the permission set, and under this sales you can actually add different users as well as creating groups, and groups are very important. This will help you separate your structured folders for departments or for multiple users, depending on what you plan to do. But keep in mind that right now, if we go here, we have sales. I have access because I am part of, I have the permission, but if I go and remove myself from this, I will not be able to access, right? So you can give access to particular people, but keep in mind that whatever you create within the home, and since this is SMB, it will appear here as well. Whatever you create with like the normal way of opening a folder, everybody who has access to home folder will be able to see all the files. So let's go again. Right, I have cells here and I have cells here. If you want this to go away, you can simply turn off SMB. Shares. So I'm gonna turn off this one. This technically should stop it from appearing here, but it will still be inside here. Right, again, we don't have access because I removed myself. As for speeds, I have no idea since we are running on hard drives. Be pretty good to test. Let's see if we have a file that is big enough. I actually have a big file from a game that my nephew is playing on my PC. So I'm gonna copy that into files. Let's see what speed we get. Don't expect something amazing. Yeah, that's pretty sad. It is 69, 70 gigabytes, 12 minutes. Well, it's not bad, but I'm pretty sure your mother or brothers, if they don't have big files like movies, um, which interesting enough with TrueNAS, you will be able to run Plex or Jellyfin. Those are third-party softwares that are pretty much like Netflix, but you need to obviously have your own movies and be able to run it from there. Maybe it will be part of a future project. We will see. But I'm going to stop this abomination from continuing. Another thing that I've learned while playing around and messing around with TrueNAS while I waited for the PC to be fixed, um, you can actually have a SSD or another NVMe that will allow you to cache files when you read and write. And that will allow you to elevate the speeds of read and writes. But that again, it's something that we'll probably test out later on. Sadly, the motherboard that we have only have 4 SATA outs and only one slot for NVMe. Luckily, we have a PCIe that it's available, and maybe we could expand that for, let's say, 2 slots NVMe. That will allow us to build that. But that being said, this is pretty much where we're at. We can see again our dashboard, and we will be able to see a bunch of information about our pools, total disk, what is our IP address, local IP address. You can even mess around and move this around if you want to. But right now we are on a very good spot. We can continue with our projects. We can save a lot of files that we need, especially since I'm going to use this as a local. I'm going to dedicate a bit of that space for my raw videos if I continue to make this type of content. but it will be a great help and a push for myself. If you guys really enjoy my videos, please leave a like, leave a comment, and if you did learn something, please share the video with your friends. That being said, I wish you all good luck and see you next time.